I'm Shailini Amin. I'm going to talk about the second part of warps and wefts of cotton yarns of Gujarat, connecting cultures and community. I'm going to start the session with a short film. It is about Kanga and Kitange made in Jethpur in Gujarat. So you have a look at that, and then we'll talk. Thank you.
वैसे जयपुर में मेनली पहले कॉटन साड़ी का ही प्रोडक्शन होता था और अभी भी चालू ही है। आफ्टर 1985 धीरे धीरे जयपुर में पूरा अफ्रीकन कंट्री का सब जो एक्सपोर्टर थे बॉम्बे के वे लोग यहाँ जयपुर में जॉब शुरू करवाया और काफ़ी काम चला कि जिसमें मेन शुरुआत हुई खांगा से।
Kanga is a garment worn mostly by women in East Africa. The name Kanga is believed to be derived from the Swahili word for guinea fowl, whose spotted feathers bear a striking resemblance to the patterns on the cloth. Kanga culture emerged in the 1870s, the designs of which have been mainly inspired by African, Indian, Middle Eastern and European influences. The paisley teardrop design and the bandhni style patterns made out of dots and squares are notable examples of this. Paisley is a design of Persian origin that was actually popularized by Kashmiri shawls in the 18th century Europe. These began to be mass-produced in a town called Paisley in Scotland that lent its name to this iconic motif. Bandhni is an Indian tie-and-dye technique used to create patterns from rows of dots and squares. In the late 19th century and thereafter, Gujarati women migrating to East Africa brought these designs on the saris and stoles they carried with them. Earlier, the Kanga slogans were written in Arabic. These were gradually replaced with Swahili. Swahili Kangas could have a much wider range of messages than those written in the sacred Arabic script. These also included racy messages, jokes, and innuendos.
In Zanzibar, there is a very interesting story that when the kanga is used, it is put on the bed, and when the men and women wear kangas, it means that they are going to have a lovely time in the bed.
Kangas are about the size of 1.6 and 1.7 meters and have 4 borders with slogans in Swahili, or in Madagascar they have the local language. This slogans means a lot to the people.
A kanga for most East African women is a medium of communication for political, social, cultural, and even religious messages. Actually, kanga, you could say, is more than what the eye meets. It is used for messages to be conveyed to others in terms of love. It could also be hatred. You know, when you wear a kanga and walk around, they know who that message is meant for.
They are worn generally between the chest to the knees, wrapped around, and probably they might use even 2 of them. Some could also use kangas to tie the babies on the back.
Kangas are also used as headgear, like I'm wearing. They are used for wearing like skirts. You can also use them as a decoration on the wall. Others use kangas as bedspreads. When we have events to do with politics, we have kangas like this one, where women will wear in their thousands, and when they appear, you see the messages. This is one of the kangas that was given during a meeting for ministers and parliamentarians in Africa. So you get a message which tells what kind of a meeting this one is. And every woman will wear it, and they, as a group look very elegant and very enticing. I hope that, this will continue. And the wedding there down says, mwendeleze mwanamke upate kumendelea. So it means empower the woman so that there is development, because we all know that it is the women who are behind development of any nation. You educate the woman and you educate the nation. So we use these kangas for such messages which bring around about a lot of energy, a lot of meaning, and a lot of cultural awareness of who we are and where we come from.
Kitenge is an umbrella term for a variety of different styles of fabric that are exported to a number of places across Africa. The word kitenge is an East African term that is used in Jaitpur primarily to distinguish these fabrics from the kanga.
वेस्ट अफ्रीका में खंगा मोस्टली चलते नहीं है, वहाँ किटांगे चलते हैं, जो मतलब फैब्रिक होता है कंटिन्यूस फैब्रिक, वो मोस्टली 12 यार्ड 6 यार्ड में पैकिंग में जाता है।
ये जो किटांगा है ये तो क्या है, अपना ड्रेस मटेरियल है। वो तो लेडीज और जेंट्स दोनों उसका यूज़ करता है पहनने में।
और मल्टीपर्पज़ यूज़ है उसका, वो पर्दा बनाते हैं, ओछाड़ बनाते, बेडशीट बनाते हैं, सब उसमें से ही यूज़ कर रहे हैं।
The various styles of kitenge are referred to by different names. Local preferences are reflected in the colors, symbols, and languages that adorn them. Some commemorative designs even celebrate important events and festivals. Religious and political prints broadcast people's allegiances. Java prints are inspired by Indonesian batik. Soso mimics the serendipitous flaws in resist wax prints that made it appealing to African consumers. Printed kente with its strips of geometric shapes is a version of the traditional woven kente of West Africa. Addis Ababa prints have a central motif and are used to make shirts and tops. It gets its name from the place where it became popular. Tourist prints are destined for souvenir shops that cater to the tourist imaginings of Africa. In recent years, Jaitpur is also producing ready-made kaftans and farasas for East African markets. Over the past decade, woven fabrics like the kente, kikoi, and Masai Suka are also being produced in other parts of India.
Gujarat, especially the Ahmedabad and Surat, called the Manchester of East. And in that sense, we already have an inertia for the textile industries. In perspective, the Saurashtra is a belt for the cotton growing area. We are one of the largest producer in the Asia also, apart from China. We are working on the 5A project because this is envisaged by the Prime Minister Modi ji. We need to have a high quality, high-ended, intensive, capital intensive systems we should come. So that way we need to become for the new policy more incentive to the farmers and irrespective to the entrepreneurs also.
India was known for its cotton production as early as 400 BC. It all begins in the fields of Gujarat where the cotton is grown. This region, with its favorable agroclimatic conditions, has a long history of producing high-quality cotton. The government of Gujarat sets a minimum support price to ensure that the farmers don't sell at a loss. The raw cotton is then sent for ginning and pressing to the mills in the surrounding areas. Here, the cotton fibers are separated from the seeds and other impurities and compressed into tight bales. These fibers are then spun into yarn, which is later woven into cloth. The spinning and weaving usually takes place in factories in southern India in places like Coimbatore. But some factories in Gujarat have now begun to weave their own cloth to maintain quality and ensure a steady supply. When the cloth arrives at the printing factory, it is not yet ready for printing. The grey cotton cloth must be washed and bleached first.
अभी अपने ये ग्रे कपड़ा देखा और उसके बाद वो फाइन देखेंगे तो कितना डिफरेंट लगता है दोनों के बीच में। उसमें से लगभग समझ लो ना 1 पर यार्ड से 10 से 12 ग्राम का क्वालिटी है ना वो डाउन हो जाता है। उसमें से वो जो अपना ऊपर का जो धागा के ऊपर जो रज लगा है वो सब निकल जाता है। ये धुलाई किया हुआ है, ये रेडी है प्रिंटिंग के लिए।
Kanga and Kitenge are printed using screens. Earlier, the printing process was entirely manual, but now most producers use mechanized flatbed printers to improve the speed and quality of the printing. However, the basic process remains the same. The designs are separated into different screens, each with a specific color. The white cloth passes under each screen, halting as layer upon layer of color falls into place, completing the design. Making the screens is a crucial part of this process. The clients who place the orders may send a sample or a sketch with some instructions. The local artists then must interpret these and use their own imagination to fill in the blanks. At this stage, Indian influences such as Bandhani and Paisley patterns make their way onto many of the African fabrics. Once the design is ready and approved by the client, it is recreated layer by layer onto a set of screens. Each screen is then carefully prepared. The design is printed on a treated screen with a reactive ink. When the ink is washed off, it leaves behind a permeable mesh through which the dye can pass. When the screens are dry, they will be ready to take their place on the printing machines. As soon as the printing is complete, the fabric is treated so that the color doesn't run. It is then kept out in the sun to dry. From here, it is sent back to the factory to be washed, ironed, labeled and packed, ready to be shipped to various destinations in Africa. In the markets of Africa today, we find cloth produced locally in Africa as well as from abroad, particularly from China and India. The success of the Indian-made fabrics has been largely to the credit of familial and diaspora networks. These serve as agents to retailers in Africa and also provide feedback that lets the producers in Jaitpur keep abreast of the trends in the African markets.
My name is Andrew Joseph. I am a small business, and what I'm doing here is selling vitenge and kanga. We have also what we call kanga nyepesi, the one which come from Zanzibar and the other which come from India. They cost only 5,000 shillings. So they're not much expensive compared to the other ones. These are used by women during hot period. Yeah, because they're very light.
Every year, the Jaipur printers bring out new catalogue with new designs derived from African prints and colors, and also sometimes Indian patterns are added into it. The cloth is now used as a material for dresses, blouses, pants as well. This is absolutely an exemplary story of cross cultures and ever changing trading markets. Let me now talk about the textile mills, Manchester, as in Ahmedabad, and now the rest of the world, how the textile industry is working. The textile industry in the city of Ahmedabad, Gujarat, dates back to the 19th century. The industry was established under the British Raj. Rao Bahadur Ranchhodlal Chotalal set up the first textile mill in 1861. After its popularity, many more mills came up in Ahmedabad. The Calico Mills was one of the earliest textile mills established in Ahmedabad, India by Sarabhai family. Established in 1888, it closed operation in 1982. For half a century, Calico Mills became one of the most modern, extensively diversified pace setter of the Indian cotton industry. It was the only textile plant in Ahmedabad to be fueled by natural gas with virtually no smoke and no air pollution. To minimize water pollution, Calico had its own primary effluent processing plant, which ensured that no waste was thrown directly into the municipal sewers. By Indian standards, Ahmedabad is a rich city. In the first half of the 20th century, its wealth rested on 62 textile mills that employed 30 million people, about 1/10 of the city's population. The workers came from across the state from other states too. The fabrics and the cotton garments manufactured here were sold all over India and exported to many countries, bringing respectability and prestige in these early years. The prosperity of the industry was a mainstay for the city's economy, and Ahmedabad was named Manchester of India. Apart from running the fine example of the Calico Mill in its heyday, two Sarabhai siblings set up Calico Museum of Textiles in Ahmedabad in 1949. It is considered by many to be the finest and most comprehensive collection of textile in the world. It is also the center of design, knowledge, research, and publications. Many international scholars and students of textile history and design get benefited from this. Museum launched its ambitious publication program, namely Historical Textiles of India, under the editorship of John Irwin, then a keeper of the Indian section of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, and the second under the editorial director of Dr. Alfred Berhel, Director of Museum of Folklore and Swiss Museum of Folklore, who conducted Contemporary Textile Craft Survey of India. The second big name was Irwin Limited. It is a textile manufacturer and a flagship company of the Lalbhai Group. The first mill of this group was established in 1896. It has grown, and even after so many years, it is still in sync with the highly competitive world textile marketplace. The company manufactures cotton shirting, denim, knits, khaki fabrics, and they own farms, lots of them, and also purchase tons of cotton, some organic and some from Better Cotton Initiative from across the state of Gujarat and from the nearby state of Maharashtra. Sanjay Lalbhai is the current chairman and managing director of Irwin Mill of Lalbhai Group. In the early 1980s, he led the Renovision, whereby the company brought denim into the domestic market, thus starting a jeans revolution in India. Today, it retails its own brands like Flying Machines, Newport, Excalibur, and licensed international brands like Aero, Tommy Hilfiger, and Calvin Klein through nationwide retail networks. One can easily say that Irwin, a Gujarat company based in Gujarat and not the one in USA, is the largest jeans producer in the world, and it is still growing and thriving. Let's talk about the Surat textile industry. Textile industry in Surat is mainly engaged in activities of yarn production, weaving, processing, as well as computerized embroidery. Surat, traditionally known for its thriving zari making in the part 1 that I discussed about, is now also well known for its synthetic product market. Nearly 30 million meters of raw material and 25 million meters of processed fabric are produced in Surat mill every day. The city has dozens of textile markets and excellent pan-India distribution and marketing network. The market for Surat's textile products are sold in all Indian states to grade 1 and grade 3 cities, in other Asian countries and in the Middle East. Around 90% of polyester used in India come from this one city, Surat. Surat textile industry has grown considerably over time. As per recent figures, textile production in Surat has grown by 10% in the last 5 years, while the market for computerized embroidery has grown from almost nothing to amount to 30,000 million over the same period. One of the main reasons behind the growth of Surat's textile industry is the city's ability to adapt to changes and the latest trends. The city is quick to respond to any changes in the preferences of the people. The industrialists here have a strong entrepreneurial skills. It looks like polyester saris with computerized embroidery from Surat, sold in millions at cheap rates, have completely changed the attire of rural and many city women. Irrespective of caste and background, this colorful, easy to wash and maintain saris and dresses have become a choice of the masses of India. Gujarat is producing its own cheap, fast fashion for the whole of India. It is polluting the environment and not very healthy for people, but it is growing stronger as ever. So the textile story of Gujarat is incomplete without the Surat story.